30 million years ago, a shadow falls across the ancient forest. A creature emerges, 2 meters of muscle and predatory intent. This is the Amphicyon, the bear dog. Not quite bear, not quite dog, but something far more lethal than either. For over 20 million years, these apex predators dominated every continent. What made them so unstoppable? Through AI reconstruction, we can now witness these extinct predators as they truly were, bringing ancient apex hunters back to life. Its skull was a masterpiece of predatory engineering, bone-crushing bite force, and limbs built for pursuit. Yet, the Amphicyon's reign would not last forever. Competition, climate, and newer predators eventually challenged their supremacy. What secrets do their fossils hold? How did they hunt? What ecosystems did they shape? The evidence is buried in stone. We'll reconstruct the Amphicyon's world, its hunting strategies, prey, and the forces that shaped its evolution. From apex predator to extinction, from dominance to mystery. The Amphicyon's story challenges our understanding of predator evolution. How did they truly hunt? What made them such formidable predators? We unlock these ancient secrets. 30 million years ago, a new kind of predator was being born beneath ancient skies. Not a bear, not a dog, something the world had never seen and would never see again. The Amphicyon didn't begin as an apex predator. It had to earn that crown. 45 million years ago, the earliest Amphicyonids were small, cautious hunters, overshadowed by larger predators. Something in their biology gave them an edge, a hidden potential waiting for the right moment. Their teeth told the story, blade-like carnassials for slicing flesh, crushing molars for cracking bone. Both. Simultaneously, the Amphicyon could hunt, consume, and process prey completely, wasting nothing. Dietary flexibility was the secret. When prey was scarce, the Amphicyon adapted and survived. Flexibility alone doesn't build an empire. The Amphicyon needed raw physical power. Its semi-plantigrade forelimbs, like a bear's, delivered crushing downward force onto struggling prey. Behind those bear-like arms were long digitigrade hind limbs built for explosive pursuit, speed and strength, pursuit and power. The Amphicyon was an evolutionary paradox, and it worked. How did they spread so far, so fast? That remains the great mystery. 30 million years ago, land bridges connected continents. The Amphicyon walked between worlds. Literally. Europe, Asia, North America, Africa. Wherever they arrived, they rose to the top. No other predator of this era achieved such global dominance. The Amphicyon was unstoppable. Their fossils appear on every inhabited continent. 20 million years of predatory supremacy. Success on this scale carries a hidden cost. The traits that made them dominant would eventually constrain them. The world that made the Amphicyon was already beginning to change. Slowly, imperceptibly, a new generation of predators was stirring. Faster, leaner, hungry for the throne. The Amphicyon had conquered the ancient world. Could its body keep pace with a world transforming beneath its feet? Picture the most formidable predator you can imagine. Now make it smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anything alive today. The Amphicyon wasn't just powerful. Every feature was a solution to a different survival problem. What specific traits let the Amphicyon thrive across so many different environments? It's a question that still haunts paleontologists. To answer that, we go back to a world warmer, wetter, and crawling with competition. 45 million years ago, the earliest Amphicyonids were small and cautious, hiding in the shadows of larger hunters. The climate cooled. Forests retreated, open landscapes emerged, and with them, new opportunities. The Amphicyonid lineage changed with the landscape. Bodies grew, limbs lengthened, skulls deepened and broadened. Carnassials sharpened into biological scissors, capable of slicing through sinew with extraordinary precision. Behind those blades sat broad, flat, crushing molars, a feature no pure carnivore possessed. This dual dentition was the Amphicyon's master key, unlocking food sources other predators could not access. When large prey vanished, the Amphicyon cracked open bones for marrow, consuming what others abandoned. Roots, tubers, fruit. Evidence suggests the Amphicyon consumed plant material too. An omnivore in a predator's body. The Amphicyon spread because it could survive almost anywhere. Desert margins, dense forests, open plains, floodplains. The Amphicyon colonized every biome it encountered. Bear-like forelimbs for wrestling prey down. Dog-like hind limbs for explosive pursuit. No other predator of this era combined both mechanical advantages in a single body. 20 million years of dominance. The fossil record is clear. This animal was, in every measurable sense, exceptional. But perfection is not permanent. The environments that forged the Amphicyon were quietly, relentlessly shifting. New grasses spread. Prey animals evolved longer legs, faster gaits, and open country endurance. The Amphicyon's powerful build, its greatest asset, may have become a liability in a faster, leaner world. A perfect predator in a changing world. But what happened when that world changed faster than it could adapt? The Amphicyon didn't just live in its ecosystem. It actively shaped it, like few predators before or since. Every apex predator leaves a signature on its world. The Amphicyon's was unusually deep and complex. How did the Amphicyon's presence change the ecosystems it inhabited? The answer reaches further than first expected. Herds of ancient horses, including three-toed Merychippus, grazed across open grasslands in enormous numbers. Wherever the Amphicyon hunted, prey herds moved differently, staying alert, clustering tighter, abandoning exposed ground. This is the landscape of fear, an invisible force reshaping where animals fed, rested, and reproduced. When grazers avoided certain zones, plant communities flourished, reshaping the terrain entirely. What unique traits allowed the Amphicyon to dominate so many environments? The answer was never one thing. It was interlocking adaptations that multiplied each other's effectiveness. Slicing carnassials for meat, crushing molars for bone and vegetation. Few predators of this era carried both. Bear-like forelimbs could pin struggling prey. Dog-like hindquarters launched bursts of pursuit speed. Together, these traits created a predator with no single point of failure, rare in evolutionary history. When drought struck and large prey disappeared, the Amphicyon shifted to fruit, roots, and abandoned carcasses. Even in scarcity, the Amphicyon remained, and its ecological influence remained with it. Other predators vanished during lean periods. The Amphicyon endured, making it ecologically irreplaceable. Scavengers depended on its leftovers. Smaller carnivores tracked its movements. Food webs orbited around it. Remove the Amphicyon, and the structure collapses. A keystone species, millions of years before the term existed. But ecosystems are not static. New competitors were emerging. Faster, leaner, built for a different world. These new arrivals didn't just share the landscape with the Amphicyon. They challenged it directly. For 20 million years, the Amphicyon had no equal. Now that was beginning to change. The bear dog had shaped the ancient world. Now the ancient world was pushing back. 20 million years of unchallenged rule. But the Miocene world was accelerating, and the Amphicyon's rivals were accelerating with it. New carnivores had arrived, sleek, fast, built for a world the Amphicyon had never faced. Early felids were emerging, leaner ambush hunters, more surgically precise than the bear dog. The question was no longer whether rivals existed, but whether the Amphicyon could outcompete them all. Speed was the first battleground. Pursuit predators were outrunning the Amphicyon to fresh carcasses. The Amphicyon arrived late and found rivals already feeding. Confrontation was unavoidable. The hyenodon held its ground, something few animals had ever dared. The Amphicyon charged, 600 pounds of muscle, bone, and fury. Brute force won. But rivals retreated only to the tree line, waiting. Every victory cost energy, and the landscape was offering less to recover on. Climate was shifting. Forests retreated. Open grasslands favored speed, not the Amphicyon's strength. Prey herds were faster now, and the Amphicyon's power-based strategy had diminishing returns. Pseudaelurus needed only patience and one perfect strike. The Amphicyon needed far more. Competitors were not just stealing meals, they were stealing territory. The Amphicyon's greatest resource. For the first time in its lineage's history, the Amphicyon was being squeezed from every direction. The Amphicyon had one weapon rivals lacked: the ability to eat almost anything. Adaptability had saved it before. Would it be enough this time? The fossil record holds the answer, and it is not what anyone expects. Some Amphicyon lineages persisted far longer than the competitors that challenged them. Resilience was real, but persistence is not dominance. Something had fundamentally changed in the ancient world. The bear dog had fought back and endured, but the world that made it great was disappearing. The last Amphicyon didn't vanish in a catastrophe. It simply stopped appearing. That silence is deafening. 9 million years ago, the fossil record runs out. No final stand, no dramatic last chapter. Something stranger hides in those layers. Some Amphicyon lineages outlasted the very rivals that challenged them. Pseudaelurus, the early fella that outmaneuvered it, disappeared from some regions first. The bear dog endured. Resilience bought time. But time is not survival. The world kept changing faster than adaptation could answer. Climate was the silent executioner. Global cooling dried continents. Forests fragmented into isolated islands. The prey herds sustaining Amphicyon were evolving. Legs grew longer, hooves struck harder. Escape came faster. A predator, built for power, had no answer to a world that rewarded speed above all else. Caloric debt compounded. Every failed hunt was energy Amphicyon could not replace. The margin for error collapsed. Its near-omnivorous diet, once its greatest advantage, could only stretch so far when the land was emptying. Reproduction slowed. Territories shrank. Populations fragmented. Isolated pockets of a lineage that once spanned continents. This is how dominance ends, not in one moment, but across 10,000 quiet seasons of diminishing return. The decline was real. Climate, competition, prey evolution, all converging at once. The fossil record refuses to explain cleanly. The exact moment of disappearance is missing. No transitional fossils, no gradual fade. Amphicyon is present, then abruptly absent. Was there a final population? A last stronghold? Did Amphicyon linger somewhere we haven't yet found? The fossil record is incomplete by nature. Every gap is a question. Amphicyon's final chapter is full of gaps. What if the disappearance wasn't uniform? What if populations survived in isolated refuges, undetected, unrecorded? The bear dog ruled for 20 million years. Its disappearance should be written in stone. Yet the stone stays silent. The factors that ended Amphicyon are known. The exact mechanism remains elusive. The answer may lie in what we haven't found yet. And that is the most compelling mystery of all. A single tooth, sometimes all that remains. Yet from one tooth, an entire world can be reconstructed. Fossil sites across 3 continents have yielded Amphicyon fragments, bones, teeth, trackways, each a frozen question. The fossil record doesn't go silent uniformly. It goes silent unevenly, region by region, species by species. Some North American sites show Amphicyon vanishing 2 million years before European populations. The disappearance was not one event. Paleontologists still debate what Amphicyon competed with and when. What can fossils tell us about Amphicyon's interactions with the other great predators sharing its world? Fossil assemblages, sites where multiple species are found together, offer the closest thing to a Miocene crime scene. At sites in Turkey and Pakistan, Amphicyon bones have been found alongside early bovids, primitive horses, and Miocene hyenas. These are not accidental neighbors. They are evidence of an ecosystem, a web of pressure, competition, and uneasy coexistence. Bite marks on prey bones tell the most direct story. Amphicyon's crushing bite left signatures unlike any other predator of its time. Some marks overlap. Different predators, different bites, same bone. Amphicyon was not always first to a carcass. Amphicyon was dominant, but not exclusively. It shared its world in complex, shifting hierarchies. The disappearance from the fossil record is not one answer. It is a convergence, readable only in hindsight. Climate shifted the land. Prey accelerated beyond reach. Competitors multiplied. No single blow, 1,000 slow pressures. The fossil record's silence is not absence of story. It is the story, told in what is missing as much as what remains. New sites are still being opened, new layers cut. Every season, the Miocene gives up something held for millions of years. What if the next find changes everything we know about how Amphicyon interacted with the ancient world around it? Amphicyon's relationships with its contemporaries, the full web of ancient interactions, remain only partially mapped. Every fossil is a data point, but data points alone do not make a living world. Something always escapes the stone. The bear dog's story is embedded in rock, but the living animal, the breathing predator, its world, that is something else entirely. That living world, what it looked like, felt like, how it shaped the animals we know today, is where the story goes next. A lion and a grizzly bear share almost nothing in common, yet both carry echoes of something older and far more powerful. Millions of years before either existed, one creature combined their most formidable traits into a single dominant form. We spent millions of years asking what Amphicyon competed with. Fossil assemblages have finally begun answering that question. Bite marks on ancient bones reveal a crowded hierarchy. Amphicyon fed alongside Miocene hyenas and early saber-toothed predators. Not the lone apex predator of legend, a dominant player in a complex, contested Miocene ecosystem. Competition didn't just threaten Amphicyon. It defined what Amphicyon became over millions of years. Today's great predators, lions, tigers, wolves, were shaped by the same ancient logic of competition and pressure. Every apex predator alive today descends from a lineage tested, refined, and sometimes erased by forces beyond its control. Amphicyon persisted for over 20 million years. Today's revered predators have existed for a fraction of that span. 20 million years of dominance, and still, pressures mounted until the silence came. Climate shifted. Prey changed. Competitors evolved faster. No single cause, a slow convergence of pressures across millions of years. What does Amphicyon's story tell us about the predators we are losing right now? Amphicyon didn't vanish overnight. Its world changed around it, slowly, unevenly, until no place remained for it. Today, habitat loss, prey decline, and competitor pressure are dismantling ecosystems in ways that feel disturbingly familiar. The fossil record is not just history. It is a warning written in stone, if we know how to read it. Every dominant predator that vanished left the same pattern, gradual erosion of the conditions that sustained it. Reading the ancient record honestly is how we might intervene before the silence comes again. Pressures converged. Ecosystems fractured. Dominant species found themselves suddenly vulnerable. Amphicyon's world was not so different from ours. The bear dog held its world longer than most, but holding a world and understanding it are very different things. What lessons does its rise and fall hold for the ecosystems and predators we are struggling to protect today? That question won't be answered in stone. It will be answered, or not, by choices being made right now. Amphicyon's reign lasted 20 million years. Today's apex predators have existed for a fraction of that span. Yet they face the same pressures that brought silence to the bear dog. The bear dog didn't vanish in a single catastrophe. Its world transformed incrementally. Climate shifted, prey collapsed, new competitors evolved. Habitat erosion, prey scarcity, competitor pressure. These converged across millions of years until the ecosystem fractured. We see this pattern repeated across the fossil record. Dominant predators, from Amphicyon to saber-toothed cats, all show the same signature of gradual decline. Today, this same story unfolds in real time. Tigers confined to shrinking reserves, wolves pushed to the margins, African wild dogs losing prey to habitat fragmentation. The difference is time. Amphicyon faced millions of years of pressure. Modern predators face the same pressures compressed into decades. The fossil record isn't ancient history. It's a blueprint of what happens when ecosystems degrade faster than species can adapt. Amphicyon was built for competition, hunting, and survival, perfectly suited to its world. Fitness wasn't enough. The world changed faster than evolution could respond. We have something Amphicyon never possessed: foresight. We can read the warning written in fossil stone and choose differently. But knowledge without action is just another fossil. Amphicyon's extinction poses a question not answered in stone, but by the choices we make today. What will we choose? Subscribe for more stories written in stone. The fossil record is still speaking if we listen.